What the just think positive spiritual people seem to leave out consistently is how childhood trauma, domestic violence, childhood abuse, generational trauma, systematic oppression, how all of these traumatic experiences affect how we manifest. If you're living in survival mode, you can manifest. You absolutely can. It will affect how you manifest. It will affect what you manifest. Because manifestation is easy. It's so easy, it's so simple. What's hard is living in survival mode. What's hard is living in fear. Matter of fact, the hardest thing about manifesting is getting clear on what you want. But if you're in survival mode, how are you going to get clear? You're living in a space of constriction. You're living in a space of constriction when what you're trying to magnetize is expansion, is growth, is development. If you're living in survival mode, you may be feeling fatigued, constantly tired. You're probably saying, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, over and over. You probably are constantly anxious. You're possibly constantly depressed. You're possibly constantly in a space where you feel like you're having to perform. You're constantly doing the things that you should do or that you have to do versus the things that bring you excitement and joy and peace. You're possibly living in a space where you feel like you're constantly catching up. Like you feel in your body as though you're behind. And I can talk about this because I lived through this. I lived most of my life in survival mode. I grew up in poverty. My mom was a single mom, and my father left when I was about 2, and she struggled very hard to provide for us because we lived in an extended family and she was the primary breadwinner, right? I experienced beatings, severe beatings as a child. I experienced all of the child abuse that you can think of, physical, emotional, verbal, psychological, and that was as a result of the stressful environment that my parental figures were in. Poverty is very much do or die kind of energy. And that's survival mode. If you grew up in a environment or a religious environment where you're told that your body is a temple of God and to be clean you have to rid it of any sexual desires because sexual immoralities and sexual desires are dirty and you need to be pure to be in alignment with God, right? Your body does not really belong to you, it belongs to God. Your body does not belong to you, your sexual desire does not belong to you, it belongs to your future husband or your future partner. Never mind that I was queer the whole time, and that's a whole other thing with the religious trauma. You are not allowed to explore sexually, right? That was my experience. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I was very strict, very, very strict. And so all of this affected how I moved. It affected what I believed was possible for me. It affected the thoughts I had about myself, about my body. It affected the way I felt about myself, and it affected the actions that I took. And we're going to be getting into that because we don't talk about how our personality is made up of all of these things. Your personality is made up of how you consistently think about yourself, consistently feel, consistently act, and what you consistently believe. So all of this affects the outcome, affects the result, which is what you're manifesting. Survival mode is characterized primarily by constricted emotions. So that is shame, that is guilt, that is fear. Dr. David Hawkins did this study using applied kinesiology, which is a study of energy moving throughout the body, through muscles, tissues, and so forth. And he found that the frequency of shame is at the lowest level. This shame is, I am bad, I am not good, I am dirty, I need to change to become loved, to be accepted, to be at peace. And that's at about 20 hertz. Shame is at around 20 hertz on the frequency scale. When we look at guilt, it's around 30. When we look at fear, it's at around 100 hertz. When we talk about peace is at 600 hertz maybe. Love, that's at around 500. And joy at 540. So if your dream life is you being at peace, you being calm, and you being in abundance, you living in love with your friends, with your partners, with whoever, you're in love, right? These are on a completely different vibrational level than survival mode, than fear, and than shame, than guilt. If you feel like you're constantly doing what you have to do, what you should do versus what you actually desire, what you love, and what lights you up, what arouses you, then you're living in survival mode versus manifestation mode, which is a state of trust, of peace, of faith, right? Fear and faith. I've made a video about this on one of the shorts, right? Faith and fear cannot exist together. They're on completely different vibrational levels. Faith is at a level where you're expanded. Your energy is expansive. But when you're feeling fearful, when you're feeling guilty, when you're feeling shameful, it's very constrictive energy. And I'm gonna insert a image to describe what I'm talking about. So we're talking about frequency, we're talking about hertz, right? Why is this important? Why are we talking about this? Well, if you want to enact quick change, rapid change, radical change in your life, you have to work from the energetic level. Radical means root. You're going to the root of the issue. And when you break down our bodies, we're made up of organs, tissues, cells. When you go even further, we're made up of atoms. When you go even further down, we're made up of subatomic particles, which are protons, neutrons, electrons, right? And modern physics tells us that at the subatomic level, matter and energy are not separate. There's no separation. They are two forms of the same fundamental thing. So, in order for you to manifest what you truly desire, you have to match the energy of the matter, the material that you're trying to bring into your life. Everything has energy. Everything has energy. So when you're thinking about your dream life, how you feel in your dream life is what you need to be embodying today. And you can't just switch. It'd be so good, so fun if we could just switch like that. But that's where shadow work comes in. And actually, shadow work is kind of fun. It's like you're in a jungle. To me, I actually find shadow work very fun because it's like you're in these dark waters or this thick, dense jungle, and you're finding all of these things about yourself that you've probably pushed down, you've probably repressed for so long. And then when you find these parts of yourself, it's like a reunion. It's a homecoming. And so in order to manifest the life that you desire, you have to go through the trauma. Since we're creative beings innately, we're manifesting all the time. When you're in survival mode, you're manifesting. The problem is that your manifestations are not bringing you fulfillment, joy, peace, and so forth. I'm gonna share my story because I found that when I was beginning my spiritual journey, my wellness journey, it was very helpful to have the people I was listening to and being in community with share their story to help me understand who I was actually talking to. It helped me to have a more intimate relationship with them, because a lot of the time when you're in survival mode, you feel isolated, you feel like no one understands you, feel alone. And because a lot of us live with unhealed shame, this shame thrives in darkness and thrives in secrecy. And so when we don't talk about our stories and we don't share our stories, other people live in more shame, and so do we. So I'm sharing my story. I think I've already said this, but I was born in Jamaica, born in poverty. My mom was single mom, and I learned at a young age that I had to perform. There were specific things that a good girl did, and if I did these things, then I would be accepted, I would be loved, and I would be given the kind of support and affection that I wanted, right? And so I learned very young to be anxious, to be hypervigilant, to slight changes in my environment, to be hypercritical, to be hyper analytical, to be an overthinker, right? And this served me because I was in a survival mode, and my body, my mind adapted to that environment to help me survive. And I did, I manifested all the things I was setting my intentions towards. I graduated at the top of my class. Each time at graduation, I was getting all the awards, all the accolades. In high school, I graduated. The top of my class spoke at my graduation. Same thing at my college graduation. Spoke at my college graduation. I had a 4.0 for most of my college, or from 11th grade all the way throughout college. And I say 11th grade because that's when I had a major change, and I was able to be in an environment where the teachers catered to my neurospiciness, and they didn't leave me behind when I, got distracted or just, got talkative or whatever it was, but they were more understanding, and so my grades completely changed with that transition. And in the pandemic, I had a moment. Everybody has a pandemic story. What? Actually, in this moment, can you please put in the comments the thing that you started doing in the pandemic that changed your life? Because everybody has a pandemic story. My pandemic story, and this is a reciprocal relationship. I'm gonna share. You're gonna share too. Okay? So in the pandemic, I got to the space where I started studying cosmology, so the creation of the universe. I started doing yoga. I started meditating a lot more, and this actually was a preparation for something that was gonna happen to me a few months after this. I was living my best life in the pandemic. It was a really hard and dark time for a lot of people, and I was thriving in the isolation and in the space of not having to work and not having to go to work and just be in that grind mode all the time. Like I came back home to myself in some ways, and I have to acknowledge that was a rough time for a lot of people. It was. Yes. Moment of silence. Yeah, it was. But for me, my personal experience, I had a ball. Bridgerton, anybody? No? Okay. Bridgerton was my ish. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So a few months after the peak of the pandemic, I ended up moving, and the place I moved to, I ended up having a near-death experience. I was in a house fire, and how this went down, I was about to go to bed, and I getting ready, gonna close my eyes, and then my spirit literally just tells me, like, you need to look outside the window. Nothing, no sound, no biological stimulus. It was just energetic. Like, there's this impulse that says you need to do this thing. So I did it. This is why listening to yourself is important. It literally saved my life. So I looked outside the window. There was a raging fire. My neighbor's house was on fire, and I had to grab some slippers and a robe, and I got everybody out the house. And this fire ended up burning down my entire house. I walked away with my partner at the time. He ran inside of the house and got my documents, because as an immigrant, if you're an immigrant, you know that your documents are one of the most important things. And the climate that we're living in right now, with how ICE is moving, how the executive branch is moving right now, y'all are seeing just how targeted immigrants are. And so if you don't have your papers, you are at the mercy of whoever you're interacting with at that time. So my papers got out, which is one of the things I am so grateful that I was able to walk away from that fire with, and my life and that robe and those slippers. And after the fire, I had post-traumatic stress. I was smoking every single day, because the self-medication was the only thing that was actually really helping me. Don't come for me, because that self-medication was the only thing that was helping me. And I forgot to tie this back to what I said earlier. I had started meditating, started doing yoga in the pandemic. So these were things that I was also using at this point in my journey to cope with the post-traumatic stress. I'm not talking against anybody's experience with talk therapy. It didn't help me. Every week I was showing up talking about the same thing. It did not help me. And as a third generation Rastafarian, I do feel like I had some ancestral guidance whenever I'd use that plant. Whenever I'd use that plant medicine, my ancestors were helping me heal and helping me navigate, right? So I'm gonna be in the future. If y'all would like me to make a video about how I healed my relationship with the plant, let me know below. Even if you don't say it, I may still do it because I just love talking about that stuff, and a lot of people are like demonizing it even now. So if that's something that you want me to talk about, I am more than willing to. But anyways, post-traumatic stress, right? So I still in this performance mode, still in the survival mode, and I ended up going to college for the thing that I thought I should do if I wanted to gain financial freedom. And so tech, was everybody's talking about tech. Everybody, is saying this is the way, this is the career that you're gonna have, the work-life balance that you want. It's gonna give you that financial freedom because you make a good amount of money. And I'm like, I've wanted all of these things for most of my life. So never mind that I would love to study psychology. Never mind that I'd love to study neuroscience. Never mind I'd love to study anthropology. Alas, I have to do what I have to do. And I continued on the survival mode, living from that trauma brain, and I had my awakening moment at my citizenship ceremony. So just some background for the non-immigrants in here. When you are an immigrant, you'll have your papers, but you have to pay your way. You have to go through interviews, you have to go through processes to get to citizenship. It's very expensive, it's very costly. You have to deal with lawyers and all these things. But not being a citizen in America, because of the xenophobia is the fear or hatred of immigrants or foreigners. And because of the xenophobia I experienced, I just always felt like if I were a citizen, I'd feel that sense of security. I'd finally feel that sense of groundedness. And my moment of awakening came when I was at my citizenship ceremony. And at this point, I'm telling y'all, I was so stressed out. I remember I was in a computer science program at the time, and so I had 2 labs due, a programming assignment, a project due, and I was just so stressed out, and I constantly felt behind. At this time, I was working about 70 hours a week between studying, exams, office hours, exams, what else? Notes, I was dedicating 70 hours a week towards school, and then I would have my job, which my job, I've been working as an educator for several years now, and I love my work. It was my saving grace, one of the times where I was able to just chill and just but school was so stressful because it was not in alignment with what I truly desired. So ultimately, there were good times, but ultimately I was not feeling that sense of satisfaction because I was disconnected from my truth. And the truth was, I was miserable. And I was at the citizenship ceremony, and all of these things were on my shoulders, on my head, just in my body. And if I haven't said it already, I have had chronic back pain since I was 15 years old. And so all of this inflammation was there because I was in chronic stress, right? My parasympathetic nervous system, which is a part of your nervous system that deals with the fight or flight response, was in overdrive. Adrenaline, cortisol. I remember raising out of, like, literally being in my bed and then like jumping up and being like, did I submit that assignment? You know what I mean? If you know, comment down below, like, so we can have that kind of exchange and connection, because that was my experience. And I've since found community in people who have had the same experience. And anyways, at the citizenships, this is a neurospicy I'm talking about. I will hop, bunny hop. Yep, I will do that. So I have some notes here to help me stay on track. But at the citizenship ceremony, I had all of this on my head, all of this in my body, and my hormones were imbalanced. So imbalanced, I had cystic acne all over my face, my neck, and everything. And when I left, I was fighting with my partner at the time, constantly arguing, and I just was not happy. All of these feelings that I expected to have when I got to this point, this thing I've been working towards for security, I did not have it. And so I gave up all hope in life. Literally, I gave up all hope in life. I was in despair. And with the support of my community, I was able to shift and step into my my wellness journey. I remember having a conversation with my grandmother, and she asked me if I had been praying. And when she brought it up, I'm like, ugh, here she go, because my family is always trying to like convert me back to Christianity, but I'm like, I don't want none of that. But I've been, healing my relationship with that. But when she brought it up, I literally was just like, I have my own relationship, but I really wasn't praying. I was meditating, but I wasn't praying. I wasn't having a spiritual relationship. I was taking care of like the mental aspect of it with the meditation, but I didn't have a name for God, because I had rejected the God I was given, because I was like, this God does not love me, so I don't love it back. And so I had like this like God-sized hole in my life, and I didn't have any relationship with a higher power, spiritual relationship. My physical will had been depleted, and I couldn't move. I couldn't go any further because my body was exhausted. My mind was exhausted. I was in despair. I was hopeless. And so I turned to spirit, and I started to build my spiritual will. Kid you not, once I made that shift from forcing everything to happen to flowing with my life, everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. I was in computer science, hated it, didn't like my classmates, didn't like my teachers, hated it. I had such limiting beliefs. I didn't think that anything else was possible for me. I didn't think that the life that I wanted was actually possible for me. I truly didn't believe that. And so when I just was like, it doesn't even matter if I don't believe it anymore, because it's not my life. I literally said, I'm surrendering. Whatever divine energy, whatever is supposed to be my life, let it be. Everything else, I don't care. I literally don't care. It's up to you. And so I started moving with intuition, because I didn't have anything else. And mind you, this was about 3/4 way throughout the semester. And so I'm like, this is even way more impossible, because how am I gonna be able to shift from these classes? If I withdraw from these classes, I'll lose my scholarships. And if I lose my scholarships, then I can't pay for the rest of my school if I lose. And I was, catastrophizing, but I had made a contract. So one thing about me, one thing about your girl, she's gonna honor a contract. Okay, she's a strategist, and so I value my business relationships. I had made a contractual agreement with divine energy, and so I had to honor it. And things just started to shift in a way that blew my mind. I switched into mathematics, which I ended up Spirit gave me the space to choose what would you like to do. And I was like, well, I have a bunch of these STEM courses. I studied biology, I studied all of these science courses, all these technology courses, all these engineering courses, and I took a bunch of mathematics, Calc 1, 2, 3, all the way up to advanced calculus. And I was like, okay, I have all of this STEM education. Mathematics is the most artistic STEM course that I can think of, so I'm gonna go with that because I don't want to be here any longer because I hated my school. My school arrested a bunch of the pro-Palestine protesters they arrested a bunch of the pro-Palestine protesters. They are very in alignment with the funding of the genocide in Palestine. They are despicable. I didn't want to be there anymore. And I remember there was I think Trump came to my school one of the times, and there were a bunch of kids walking around with MAGA hats. I was like, get me out. It was a PWI. Yeah. Anyways, but I switched into mathematics. I ended up in exams divining. I was doing divination in exams. I was like, okay, I have all of this information that I literally did not remember, but because I was in my body, because I was in trust, my parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that deals with rest and digest, and it allows you to tap into that body wisdom. It kicked in, and I literally I didn't study. I didn't go to office hours anymore. I didn't go to class, actually. And I graduated 6 months earlier. 6 months earlier than I had planned before. And since then, I have gone through so many transitions, started a counseling program. I went through a creative residency, and now I am launching my ebook, coming to y'all. This is free resource. It's the offering to the universe. It's the offering to anybody who's in a state of survival mode, state of fear, self-doubt, insecurity, and who's ready to make that transition. So I'm gonna leave my link to the waitlist for the ebook in the description if you're ready to make this transition. And after the link is dropped for the ebook, I have another surprise for y'all. So subscribe, join the community. If this is getting you going, if this is getting you excited, if this is interesting to you, subscribe, because there's more coming. And if you've resonated with anything that I've said, leave a like, support your girl, okay? We are supporting each other here. But yeah, I've gone through so many changes, and I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I'm still transforming. And the biggest change that I am stepping into is sharing my healing process. I've healed so much in private, alone. Now I'm sharing it with everybody, for everybody to see, because I'm sick and tired of this social norm that we need to get ourselves together in private and then come and then, okay, now I'm put together, now I'm ready to engage. That's unhealed shame. It's hard to hear, but it's true. So We are airing it out. Truth is a frequency that we are rising to. And I just got shivers as I said that. Ashe. Okay. So I just shared my story, and I want to give y'all some practical tools that you can use to help you shift from survival mode today, right now. Okay, so let's talk about survival mode for just a little bit more. How does survival mode work? I have some notes here, so I'm going to be looking down. So first, you experience some stressful stimulus, right? And then the amygdala in your brain senses this, right? And then it sends out signals to your hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a part of your brain that's able to activate your sympathetic nervous system. So your hypothalamus activates the sympathetic nervous system and sends out hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, and your body gets activated, and it's like, we are ready to fight, we are ready to go to war, right? That's the sympathetic nervous system, and it's there to keep us alive. It's here to protect us from any kind of threat. And the sympathetic nervous system does not distinguish between threats, right? So this could be physical threats, it could be emotional, anything that stresses you out. It could be emotional stress, psychological stress, physical stress. It does not distinguish. Anything that triggers you, anything that threatens your sense of safety, it doesn't matter what level it's on. It could be someone yelling, it could be someone trying to hit you, it could be someone threatening to hit you. All of these still activate the sympathetic nervous system, because if you're like me, you probably grew up like, if you get beaten and you didn't leave any scars, then it's not that bad. The yelling is not that bad. The manipulation is not that bad. The emotional manipulation is not that bad. The narcissism, the codependency, the toxic relationships are not that bad. Yes, they are that bad. And they're keeping your sympathetic nervous system in overdrive. And so this is how survival mode works. And so for us to shift, we have to switch from the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And the parasympathetic nervous system is a part of your nervous system that deals with the rest and digest. And digesting is not just the food, it's also the information that we're constantly being inundated with. It's anything that you consume energetically, your body is able to process it when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So, how do you shift? First, you have to disconnect. We're constantly being bombarded with information. We're in the information age. It's what it is. And so what we have to do is disconnect, block it off, right? We have to block it off, and you have to disconnect. If you're in a space where you are still in that space that is causing you trauma, maybe you go into nature, maybe you go outside of the home, right? But you have to have a space. You have to go out and find a space. Seek a space that you feel safe. You have to do that for yourself. So we're going to disconnect, and we're going to go to our safe space, wherever that is. Once we're there, we're going to breathe. See, your breath is your life force energy. And so we have to circulate our breath, not have it just be shallow, because that is, again, the sympathetic nervous system, right? We're switching into parasympathetic, which is deep breathing. For step 2, we are breathing and centering ourselves. You could do this in a lot of different ways. You can do it by going outside and putting your foot barefoot on the ground, grass, dirt, That's something I like to do. You can just sit down and meditate. You can walk and meditate. But some stillness is actually helpful with this, with centering yourself and with this specific exercise. And I'm gonna allow you to do what you feel like is best for you, because your body wisdom knows more than I can never share with you, because your body has all the answers. Your vessel has all of the answers you need. So trust yourself. Allow your own intuition to guide you and modify this how you need to modify it. But step 1 is disconnect and find your safe space. Step 2 is to breathe and center yourself. When you're breathing, what you want to do is breathe into your belly. This is called diaphragmatic breathing. Why can't I talk? Diaphragmatic breathing, baby. Yes. And so you breathe deep into your belly. You're going to hold it you're going to breathe in for 4. So breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, and then you're going to breathe out for 4 and hold it for 4. This is the box breath. It's called box breathing. And if you know anything about a box, it has 4 sides, right? If you know about numerology, that's the number 4. Number 4 is about security, it's about stability. And we are using all of these multi-layered tools and techniques to help us ground and build structure and embody structure. And your breath is your first tool towards your liberation, honey. Next, with step 3, if you have already been doing step 2, you're already kind of started on step 3. You're gonna start to embody your higher self. How do they hold their shoulders? How do they walk? How do they look? How do they smile? How do they smell? You're gonna be using your mind to call on all of these details and get as specific as you possibly can. And then, while you're in this space, you are going to think about how does your higher self feel. You're going to think about the feelings, right? The emotions are the energy in motion, right? And so how you feel affects how you move in the world. It affects what you think, it affects how you act, and it affects how you manifest. So how does this higher self feel? Do they feel at ease? Are they in pleasure? Do they feel pleasure running throughout their body? Do they feel joyful? Do they feel peaceful? And when you're in this space, you're gonna sit and allow yourself to fully become enveloped, have this energy radiate throughout your body. This is the key. You need to stay in this meditation, stay in this space until you feel the energy in your body. We're moving this energy throughout our body, and so we're embodying this energy, right? Once you're here, you're going to ask yourself, what do I need to release to get to this person? What is standing between me and this person, right? If it's that I feel like I'm not good enough, ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this feeling of not feeling good enough? Whatever comes up, whatever is standing between you and this higher self, you're gonna go back and search through your memory to see when was the first time that this came up. This is where the shadow work comes in. You're gonna be writing down and taking notes all of these things, right? We're gonna be taking notes. So this is step 4. What do you need to release? It's the last step. What do you need to release to reunite with this version of yourself? And for me, my step five is perfectionism. I am releasing the desire or the need to be perceived as perfect, to be perceived as the good girl, to be perceived as whatever someone else thinks I should be or said I should be. And so this is the process on how you are going to shift from survival mode into manifestation mode now. And I hope that my story was something that helped you to feel seen. And I again will be linking that free resource below. And I have another surprise coming up for y'all, so stay tuned. And thank you for spending time with me here at Talaway University. Again, I tend to not introduce myself, but I am Tammy Shea. You can call me Talaway, you can call me Goddess. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me, sharing your attention with me. And I pray that this resource is something that has been helpful for you. And if you are interested, if you want more of this, more is coming. And this ebook is gonna be free. It's a offering. It's an offering to any person who is living in survival mode, in that state of fear, self-doubt, and insecurity, and is ready to make that shift. Is ready to walk in confidence, is ready to walk in purpose, is ready to walk in their dream life. And then, alas, that's the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.